Today on Notsam Wrestling, John Morrison saves the industry at Creator Clash. Are we getting another summer of Punk, the King of the Ring, the Queen of the Ring? Is it happening? And so much more. This is Notsam Wrestling. This is Notsam Wrestling. Here we are watching along YouTube, Apple, Spotify, everywhere. What an incredible time. And I'm telling you, too, that in terms of professional wrestling, going beyond what we're used to, in terms of professional wrestling going beyond just the industry as we know it, we're in a great space, okay? Not only as a creator myself, I'm here on the internet creating things. That makes me a creator, and one of the big events that creators have is the Creator Clash. I believe the Creator Clash is one of the events that got the Paul brothers into the fight business to begin with. It's where you get these big YouTubers and you have them fight with each other. Well, they did that over the weekend. And you had Harley, the host of Epic Mealtime, which at one point was like the hottest show on the internet. Now, not so much, but that show was so hot. This guy gets recognized everywhere he goes. And he came out with the Shield entrance. I think he had the music playing, but he had the vest on. He walked out through the crowd. It was great. I love pomp. I love circumstance. I love the entertainment part of sports entertainment. But at Creator Clash, he had a boxing fight with John Morrison. And it was Johnny Creator's job to get into that creator space. It was Johnny Creator's job to say, you can't sit here and not take pro wrestling seriously. You can't sit here and make people believe that just anybody can do this. No. So he got in the ring and he proved that pro wrestlers are tough guys. Yes, with Taya Valkyrie and Mackenzie Mitchell and Vic Joseph and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and a plethora of other familiar faces from the world of sports entertainment at his side as part of his entourage. John Morrison was able to knock out Harley from Epic Mealtime, and it just felt so good as a wrestling fan to be represented at Creator Clash, and not just represented, but represented as a winner. So often in life, us wrestling fans, we get represented, but we get represented as wieners. No, we were represented as a winner, thanks to Johnny Creator, and I don't know what other tricks this guy has up his sleeve. But in the world of sports entertainment, John Morrison is just built to succeed. He's going to find another avenue. You give him a shot, and he's going to hit a home run. You don't give him a shot, he's going to craft a bat out of a tree in a forest, and then he's going to parkour his way into your stadium so he can still hit a home run. It's an unbelievable thing he's doing. And then we take another footstep into the world of the mainstream. I don't know if you guys heard this, but the sports Emmy nominations came out. And for the first time, and this is bigger than I think people realize, but for the first time, WWE has been nominated for an Emmy. It's a sports Emmy. It's their doc department. The Ric Flair documentary that aired on Peacock, I think it was called Becoming Ric Flair, WWE produced documentary, the first WWE documentary to get nominated for a sports Emmy. I think that's fantastic. I think that this is what one of the things the Endeavor deal is all about. When you look at what's under that Endeavor umbrella, we're talking about WWE now and UFC. We're also talking about William Morris Agency. We're talking, WME. We're talking all kinds of Hollywood stuff. And something that I think everybody in WWE has known for some time is the logical next step is to sort of be taken seriously in the mainstream world of entertainment. And I think even if you think awards are silly, that's part of it, I mean, these Hollywood folks, they go crazy trying to make sure that they get recognized by the various academies, whether it's the Emmys or the Oscars or the Grammys. People want to get these EGOTs. And for the longest time, WWE was completely ignored by those folks. And I never understood why. Every time I would turn on one of these award shows and they would have an award for best live show, and it would go to like another award show. And I'm sitting there going, you got a year between award shows. You have a full year to produce next year's Emmy Award show after this year's Emmy Award show. WWE is putting on shows that are far more complex from a production standpoint live twice a week, 3 times a week with NXT than any of these shows. I mean, the idea that a great episode of Raw, like when I watch television, right? I watched The Last of Us, episode 3 with Nick Offerman. As I'm watching it, I'm going, yeah, for sure. This gets nominated. This is what gets nominated. When you hear a television show is nominated for an Emmy, generally it's episode specific. Episode 3 also of season 4, this newest season of Succession, which was just, if you're listening to this on time, last week's episode. Unbelievable. I'm watching that. I'm going, that is an Emmy-nominated episode. But I've watched episodes of Raw or SmackDown or whatever. Nominate Raw 30. You kidding me? With the Samoan Tribunal Court, with The Undertaker coming out as the American Badass and whispering something to Bray Wyatt, with everything that happened. DX coming out, the whole deal. Raw 30. Raw is XXX. Not a little bit of an unfortunate name, but still was an incredible show. That's better than most of the stuff that gets nominated for Emmys. So I'm really glad that WWE is getting some of that Emmy love, and especially that it's going to the doc team, because I don't think people realize, especially right now, with everything that you've got on Peacock and digital and A&E, I don't think people realize how tirelessly that department is working. That we got like however many episodes of This Is Awesome, plus, you know, behind the scenes at WrestleMania from last year, plus WWE 24 on YouTube over here, plus, 3 hours of fresh docs every single weekend on A&E television. It's tremendous. So I'm really happy to see that team get recognized. And I'm really happy to have gotten to work with some of them. I don't know how many of you caught. I know last week on A&E was the Dusty Rhodes doc, which I was thinking it would have been nice if Cody Rhodes was world champion when that Dusty Rhodes doc came out, but it wasn't meant to be. And the more I think about it, the more I wonder, like, I look at Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, right? And I look at the fact that as tag team champions, it's just not as exciting as it was leading to WrestleMania. And it's only been 2 weeks, and maybe it'll get much more exciting, but it's not as exciting. And the reason for that is because the story was told. Once Cody was champion, where would we have gone? Well, we'll talk about it more in depth later. I think I talked about it 2 weeks ago, but at some point we'll talk about it more. But the Dusty Rhodes doc, which I haven't seen yet, but I've heard really good things about, aired last week. And then this week, I hope you guys got a chance to check it out, the Iron Sheik documentary, which I was fortunate enough to be invited to take part in. That was really cool. Still seeing my face pop up on those things is so trippy to me. Like, it's so crazy. Even in the previews, when I'm sitting there, right, and it's like the Iron Sheik's friends and family, and then it's Bret Hart, and it's Hulk Hogan, and then, here's Sam to talk about what he thinks of the Iron Sheik. I'm like, Sam? Even I'm the voice of half the tweets I get. Sam? Why's Sam here? But then I bust out some fire. Then I start busting out sound bites, and I'm like, oh, damn. Oh, that's why he's here. He just called him a foreign menace. He's not messing around. No, I'm so fortunate and flattered. It's one of, if not my absolute favorite things that I've gotten to do around WWE and wrestling, is to be a part of so many of the documentaries. I love the stories so much, that the idea that I get to kind of help retell them in my own very, very small way for people that might not be familiar with them is super cool and very, very rewarding for me. And of course, the Rivals show that was on after Iron Sheik was great too. Hogan versus Piper, I believe it was. I don't know, but my ass was on that too. So Very rewarding, very cool. But let's not bury the lead here. Let's talk about what the wrestling world has been talking about over the past few days, and the fact that we may be in store for a 4th edition of the Summer of Punk. CM Punk is like Jay-Z. No musician signified summer more than Jay-Z. Jay-Z would come out with a hit at the beginning of the summer, and it's boom, I took the season from you again. For some reason, when the sun comes out, the guns come out, and CM Punk starts to shine bright. Because you look at, and the fact is that aside from the original Summer of Punk, I don't think that they've gotten the Summer of Punk right just yet. You know, there's still room. It always starts off so great, and I'm sure with the best of intentions. But it's like any movie trilogy. If you look at the Summer of Punks as a movie trilogy, that first one is incredible. The second two fall apart so quickly. But so let's talk about it. The first Summer of Punk comes in 2005. That's in Ring of Honor. And that is just, if you can find the DVD somewhere, I don't know if AEW has put up a bunch of that old stuff on Honor Club. It's some of the best wrestling / storytelling ever. It becomes public information that CM Punk is going to WWE. CM Punk at the time had grown in Ring of Honor. First of all, he was like the guy on the indies. And Ring of Honor at the time was the organization on the indies. So, I mean, he is the guy, and he's the people's guy. He's one of those guys that it felt like we, the fans, had put up on this pedestal, and he was finally getting recognized, right? So he has a match for the Ring of Honor World title with Austin Aries. And we're to assume this is his last match with Ring of Honor, as we were told as much. And he wins. He wins the Ring of Honor championship. And then he utters those immortal words that MJF has used in promos since. But the first time I recall it being used on wrestling was by CM Punk. I've used it on a pre-show before. It's a quote from The Usual Suspects, I believe, which is the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was making you forget that he existed. And CM Punk, as the fans are cheering him on, as he's won the world title in his very last match, turns heel on everybody, calling everybody stupid idiots for believing him. On the next show, he shows up in a suit. This is not something that CM Punk ever would have done. And he legit signs his WWE contract on the Ring of Honor title. The Ring of Honor title is held up for him. He puts the contract on top of it, and he signs the contract. And basically, we have this situation where CM Punk is going to defend the title. And the new goal is not just for the superstar to beat CM Punk and become the champion, but it's to save the entire Ring of Honor organization from CM Punk making a mockery of what they hold so dear. So he ends up having this amazing series of matches over the course of the summer with a ton of great opponents. And every match, you're kind of wondering, is this it? Maybe this is the last match. Maybe this is the one where he gives up the title. Because every time a superstar is leaving the territory, you kind of know going in, oh, okay, I guess they're going to lose this one. But when you know they're leaving, but every match you think is their last match and then they keep winning, it just makes for this amazing, organic, fun, reality meets scripted television story. So Punk ends up losing the Ring of Honor title, ends up saying goodbye to his Ring of Honor folks, and goes off to WWE. So that's the 2005 Summer of Punk. And then the Summer of Punk rears its ugly head again in 2011 in a move that is comparable to that one, right? Because the idea was if nobody can beat him, he's going to take the Ring of Honor title and he's going to bring it to the WWE. Well, in 2011, the Summer of Punk, it starts with probably at this moment, I want to say the second most famous wrestling promo of all time, but honestly, I mean, it's that or Austin 316, right? There's three wrestling promos that come to mind as a possible top one. It's Austin 316 at the King of the Ring in 1996. It's Scott Hall showing up on Nitro. You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. And it's the pipe bomb. But the pipe bomb just stands alone so tremendously. I don't know. It's probably second. But if you said it was first, you know, I'd at least listen to the argument. And he airs his grievances live on WWE television, something that's really never been done before. And it's all a build-up to a match that he has at the 2011 Money in the Bank pay-per-view with John Cena. But the crux of it is his contract is up. His contract runs out after Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is in Chicago, his hometown. And his plan is to go to Chicago, beat John Cena for the title, and leave the WWE as champion. Take the title with him. And that pay-per-view is such a magical pay-per-view. That match is such a magical match that it leads to. It's still one of my favorite matches ever. CM Punk obviously wins. That's where he sits on the guardrail, blows a kiss to Vince McMahon, and takes off. He stays home only for 8 days. That's where things started to go awry. John Cena wins a title, wins the title on Monday Night Raw from Rey Mysterio, actually. A little trivia. And CM Punk comes back. Now they're double champions. Now we're going to go to, solve this issue. Who's the true champion? But this is the one that, like, kind of very quickly deteriorates into CM Punk's weird beef with Triple H and Kevin Nash coming back. And the whole thing just ended up being a real mess. 11 years after that is when we got our third Summer of Punk. Now, some people thought it might happen the year before. CM Punk does the unthinkable, returns to professional wrestling, and shows up in AEW in August of 2021 at the First Dance in Chicago. But the fact that happened in August, I believe it was August, if I remember correctly, the summer's pretty much over. So you can't give him that summer if it starts in August. But what you can do is say, on May 30th, 2022, CM Punk won the AEW championship from Hangman Page. That is the beginning of the third Summer of Punk. Unfortunately, CM Punk does end up injured for most of that Summer of Punk. By the time he comes back, he loses the title only to win it back from Mox a week later at the pay-per-view or 2 weeks later. But then after he wins it back, it looks like we're going to start up the storyline with MJF, which people have been looking forward to, doing Act 2 of what is still probably looked at as AEW's best story that they've told yet, only for CM Punk to injure himself again, or get injured again, I should say, and bury the entire company at a press conference. And CM Punk disappears. So to me, the Summer of Punk is very often associated with the best and worst of CM Punk. Well, it looks as though we may have a do-over at that, at the fourth? At the fourth Summer of Punk. This was reported. Now I'm checking a calendar real quick. I just want to make sure that my date's right. Yes, it is. Over the past couple of days, Sean Ross Sapp, Dave Meltzer started reporting stuff, but then Andrew Zarian, who does a podcast called Mat Men, who I actually really like what he does. Not to take anything away from the other two, but just I feel like that dude doesn't get as much shine as like the Observer and Fightful do, and I think Andrew Zarian does a real nice job. But he went on and basically he said that anything can happen, but what he's heard is that this is the plan, that AEW is going to be debuting a new television show called Collision, which I had heard that AEW was debuting a new television show. I had heard it was going to be on Saturday nights. I had heard it was going to be on 8 to 10, which is what Andrew Zarian reported. I didn't know about Collision, but he says that that's the idea. And that he says that while reports initially were that it was going to be on TBS, it actually may very well be on TNT. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. You know, it's interesting timing because we had heard all the reports that Tony Khan was looking for a TV deal for Ring of Honor, couldn't get one, but is now getting a third AEW television show. And then the question comes into play, well, what is this television show going to be? Because, you know, when Rampage first came out, it was looked at as something that would be equal to Dynamite. And that very quickly became not the case. As a matter of fact, I think it wasn't the debut of Rampage, was it? It was early on in the run of Rampage that CM Punk actually debuted on this episode of Rampage, and it did astronomical ratings because Punk was on it. Which, by the way, the fact that Rampage did astronomical numbers when it was Punk's return is what leads me to believe that if you're trying to get as many people as you can into Wembley Stadium, that CM Punk is the guy to get in there. It's all about stories and characters that people are interested in, and CM Punk is one of those guys. So, so you try to figure out where this AEW TV show is going to fall in line with what they do, you know. And at first, I was kind of hoping that they would run it at 6:05, and it would be like WCW Saturday Night, and it would just be a spot like, if you caught it, great. If you didn't catch it, that's okay too. Good exposure for younger guys, newer guys, whatever it is. But apparently, this is going to be much, much more. Because the rumor is that on June 17th, this show will tape its premiere episode or broadcast its premiere episode live in Chicago. This is the rumor that I've heard. If any of my facts are wrong, I'm literally getting all of my information from other people on the internet. So don't report on any of this as if I'm saying it. I have no idea. But they're saying June 17th, Chicago, and that is hypothetically where CM Punk will make his return to AEW. And what some are speculating, and you know, here on Notsam Wrestling, there's one thing we like to do, and there's a certain way we like to do it. We like to speculate, and we like to do it wildly. Wild speculation is running amok, and the latest bit of wild speculation, the same type of wild speculation that were reporting buyers of WWE that were not buying WWE, the same type of wild speculation that have gotten things right and things wrong many, many times, is now wildly speculating that the plan is to do kind of a roster split, not a hardcore roster split, not a draft, but just have certain stars that will primarily be shown on this Saturday Night Collision show, and have other stars that will primarily be shown on Dynamite. And now, I don't know if Rampage is then a third set of stars or what it is, but idea being that apparently if the Elite doesn't want to work with CM Punk, which some have wildly speculated is the case, that they would be like Dynamite guys, and CM Punk would be a Collision guy. That's all well and good. And I think AEW bringing CM Punk back into the fold is not just a good idea, it's imperative for AEW and for Punk. I mean, I think it is what it is. I mean, it's what fans want to see. It's what, you know, you could say what you want about him. A lot of fans have soured on CM Punk, but they're going to tune in to watch him. And that's what matters. There's a lot of money to be made in AEW with CM Punk. Problem is, a lot of that money revolves around the Elite as well. See, when you talk about AEW doing all in, because right, Because if he were to come back in June, that would mean that Forbidden Door 2 would be in that window that he was back for, which who knows. But that's one that if CM Punk's not on, that's okay because it's kind of a specialty show. But if you're doing All In at Wembley Stadium, and then 7 days later, All Out, I don't even know how that works. I don't know how you make one not feel inferior to the other. I don't know how you tell enough stories to do it, but maybe the plan is that All In is full of guys that are on the Saturday show, and All Out is full of guys and girls, superstars. All In is all Saturday people, and All Out is all Wednesday people. Maybe the international title and the TNT title, or maybe the TNT title is defended on Saturdays. Maybe the international title is defended on Thursdays. Maybe the women's championship is defended on Saturdays. Maybe the TBS championship is defended on Wednesdays. I said Thursdays. I meant Wednesdays. But that could be a way to do it, right? That way you can have these two mega shows and hopefully build two mega rosters. In terms of sheer amount of people, you have enough people in AEW to build two mega rosters. I have no doubt in my mind. But it is more important than amount of people are the stories that those people are telling. You have to be ready to tell rich stories on two different shows in order for those shows to feel like you can't miss them. Dynamite this week. Plenty of good stuff on Dynamite. Lots of good matches. You don't really see bad matches in AEW ever. Plenty of good matches. But if I were to tell somebody, what was it, if I'm going to rewatch Dynamite, what are the things that I have to see? Like if I've got a half an hour in my day, I just want to recap real quick. What do I have to see? I would say you have to see the Darby MJF Sting promo because it was fantastic. And you've got to see the Jeff Hardy return because of the way the crowd reacted. When Jeff started coming out and his music played and he did the dance, everybody's so happy to see Jeff Hardy. And there's physicality with Jeff Hardy, but I wouldn't say that you have to watch any of the matches. You can. They're great. But that's why I would tell people to have watched Dynamite last week, is because MJF and Darby had a promo that to me was so good, it's almost like, I feel like we can go to the next pay-per-view with just MJF versus Darby. I mean, you can have MJF, humiliate and beat the crap out of Sting at some point, and now Darby is fighting for Sting. I feel like you could get MJF, and they're just so polar opposites. It's the goth kid versus the rich kid. You could make that a pay-per-view main event. I think even more so than the four-way. But regardless, that's what you need a lot of to make shows can't miss. And if you're going to build big pay-per-views around the shows, you've got to make them can't miss. The real problem is that if we're going to even consider this to be a Summer of Punk, I mean, if you're keeping the Elite and CM Punk on two different shows, hopefully you'll eventually get to a place where those guys can be in the same room together, because all people are going to want to see is the Elite versus Punk, and more, because I've heard people talking about 6-man tags and stuff like that. But CM Punk versus Kenny Omega is that match. The singles match, CM Punk versus Kenny Omega, is the match that fills an arena. That is the biggest single match that I believe AEW could put on. If you're not going to do Punk versus the Elite right away, you kind of have to get right in to Punk versus MJF. You've got to give something to Punk that has meat on the bone. And Punk versus MJF has meat on the bone. But if what they're saying is true about the shows, does that mean you move MJF and the AEW championship over to Saturday? Are you willing to not have, if you're going to just have Punk be a Saturday guy, are you willing to make MJF just a Saturday guy? Because I feel like executives are going to sit there. If one show has better ratings than another show, or if one show feels like it has more star power than the other show, executives are going to go, look, We want MJF and CM Punk and Kenny Omega and all these guys on both shows. Maybe that's a bridge we cross to it when we get it. There's rumors that there's going to be a meeting, a closed-door meeting that somehow we all know about. And somehow we even know the participants of this meeting, which it really starts making an alarm go off in my head like this is probably not true. Because why would we all know about it? But maybe somebody blabbed. They said they're going to do like, I don't know, Punk and the Elite and Tony and FTR and Jericho all in a meeting room together. I don't know. I think you can have another Summer of Punk. I think you can have Punk be the anchor of a Saturday show. But I really think that you've got to pay off Punk and the Elite if Punk is going to come back. If both of those bodies exist in AEW, regardless of what day of the week they're on, that's what people are going to want to see. Speaking of what people are going to want to see, by the way, an announcement was made that what we thought was going to be the King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view is not going to be that. It's going to be Night of Champions. So we thought we were getting King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring from, I believe, Qatar, from Saudi Arabia on the 27th, I want to say, of May, somewhere around there. At the end of May, I think is when it was scheduled. And now that pay-per-view name has been changed to Night of Champions. I've got to imagine that the reason that has happened is because it's going to be centered around Roman Reigns. I don't know exactly when the 1,000 days kicks in, but I think the 1,000 days kicks in around then. I probably should have looked that up before I started doing the show. But I would imagine that's why it's being renamed Night of Champions. But I also feel like that doesn't mean they're not going to do King and Queen of the Ring. I would say let's not lose hope. King and Queen of the Ring might not be dead. I love King of the Ring as its own pay-per-view. If you look at King of the Ring, 93, I'll give it to 97. Because that's when they actually took the King of the Ring seriously. And then Brock winning in 2002 was pretty important too. But Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Mabel, you scoff at Mabel winning the King of the Ring, but it did take him to the main event of SummerSlam. Then 96 is Austin, 97 is Hunter. It starts to get wonky 98 on. But if you don't make it wonky, if you either make it a thing where you're putting a new heel on top, or you make it a thing where you're showcasing how good someone is, a la Bret Hart, a la Stone Cold Steve Austin, even though he was a heel being put on top, but it was a different deal. It can be really, really effective, I think. So I am holding out great hope that we still get the King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring tournaments. Probably won't get the full 8-person tournaments if there's 2 of them, but at least give me 4 men and 4 women competing to find out in Saudi Arabia who the King is and Queen of the Ring is. I think it'll be good. I think it was good for Xavier Woods and Zelina Vega last year. I think this year, that might be a good spot for LA Knight. I told you last week, I thought Logan Paul should win the Money in the Bank this year. LA Knight as King Knight. I mean, that's kind of funny. He's a king, but he's also a knight. Maybe he's the LA King. I don't know. LA King, that could be whack of work too. I got all kinds of ideas. I think you keep King of the Ring as a title. Not a title of a pay-per-view, but I think you keep King of the Ring as a competition. And I think that's finally where you give LA Knight something. Because all he does right now is lose matches and get over. So if we could figure out a way that he could start winning matches and still also continue to get over, that would be huge. I think putting the crown on his head and making him LA King Knight is the way to go. Yeah! Hey guys, if you'd like to watch the Leo Rush interview that I did as part of this podcast, click the link in the description below. It is an incredible interview, over an hour long, and you're going to love getting to know this guy. I think you're going to meet a person that you didn't realize was behind this character. I uploaded it separately so that nothing got confused, but go ahead, check it out, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you.